Hi, I'm Gene McLoughlin. I'd like to welcome you to Old Bridge Outlook with Mayor Owen Henry. Today we have a guest who is a very talented lady. She has been from Wall Street to the motivational business, and she's a resident of Old Bridge. She's going to be discussing her background, and then we're going to get into a little bit of what it takes to do some writing for those of you who are interested. Marisa, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you so
Marisa.
much. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you.
Mayor, if we can chat just briefly.
Oh, yes.
A couple of things to talk about. One of the favorites, I guess, is Route 9. How are we doing?
Route 9's well. Anybody go past us to see the buildings are going up.
Yeah.
Big fit out, big project. So a lot happening on Route 9. The warehouses are going up as we speak. But today, Gene, I hit the first golf ball at the golf course today.
How about that?
So
Yeah.
that's great. If people go on our website, they'll see the instructions on how to start registering for the soft openings in
Right.
October. If you want a tee time and go and hit some balls on the course, it really is beautiful. We drove the carts around, and the driving range will be open. Miniature golf is open, and there'll be some tee times, as I said, in October. It really is a jewel of the township for today's residents and the future residents and the future golfers.
It's a great move. It really is.
And the whole project, the whole scope, the whole magnitude of acquisitions 2022 with the warehouses,
All that
fed the golf
land,
courses, and allowed this developer to invest probably close to $30 million into the town, off-site improvements, including the golf course. So.
And we gave that to a private firm to
Yeah, it was
manage,
awarded,
right?
it went out to bid,
Yeah.
and now they're managing it, the golf course, yes.
Okay, so that helps out too, huh?
That helps out great. Another big project going on in town is the Mamino Park.
Yeah,
I don't know if
amazed
anyone
about
had
that.
seen
Yes,
the
sir.
pictures that we put up,
Right.
but in the week, 3 official-size baseball fields were installed. The turf was rolled out, and they look like they're ready to play baseball.
Okay.
It's amazing. If you see the picture from the air, how fast they roll that artificial turf out. And now they're putting the fences up, so hopefully by springtime, when baseball season comes,
That would be
we
great.
play ball.
And Pete Menino would be very proud.
Yes, the whole town should be very proud. I
Yeah.
mean, that was a park that has been open but never worked in. You know, it never took off. Now it's going to be 24/7, 365
All
a
right.
year with all kinds of activities going on over there. Between the pickleball people, they have their lights now, so they're playing night and day.
Okay.
And these baseball fields are all going to be fully lit. So, and not only have they used for baseball and softball, but other sports can play out in the outfields when it's their season. So we expect a lot of use on those fields.
Okay.
A lot of projects going on in town. The gas line replacement project is still going on. A lot of roads are getting dug up. A lot of roads are getting fixed, paved.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully before the winter moves in, we'll be able to get as much done as we can with that. The control farm is moving forward. That's getting close where we could have an opening to the public where they can go on the outside. The bathrooms are being built right now as we speak. The playground is being installed. The walking trails are just about ready. So that's going to be another great addition to the town, another jewel. 2 jewels in 1 year.
Okay, you're on a roll.
Been talked about for years,
Sure
if not
has.
decades. And Gene, I just say, boy, am I in the right place at the right time? And
Yes.
I'm just so glad that on my watch, these projects are finally
Coming
getting
to
done with a
fruition,
lot of hard work, a lot of good people. And so I'm truly blessed.
Okay, Mayor, well, thank you. Folks, I want to turn to our guest now, Marisa Santoro. Marisa, welcome again.
Thank you.
Could you give us a little bit of your background? How did you start out? I know you had the 21 years on Wall Street, and then you made a transition. Could you just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I started out as a computer programmer right out of college, started in mainly the buy side of Wall Street, and worked my way up. I ended up as a senior leader of IT executive running data warehouses and data initiatives across the firm. And fast forward, throughout my career, I found that I was always coaching people, always empowering and motivating people to sort of, whether they should stay, whether they should go, should they, use this resume, that resume. And I sort of developed a knack for doing this behind closed doors. And this went on for years.
Really?
And so one day, someone asked the question, have you ever thought about career coaching or motivational speaking? And the answer was no, I hadn't. But, the minute someone asked the question, it was sort of like this light bulb moment, like, is it possible to actually walk away from, a career I had invested in for 2 decades?
Right. How did you decide to make the transition?
Well, I decided to dip my toe into motivational speaking while I still was in my day job. So I
Okay.
started doing keynote talks as a sort of side hustle, they call it now. But at the time, it was, moonlighting.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved it for what it was. I decided to start a community of professionals in our shoes as our community, mainly mid-career professionals to senior leaders, talking about challenges, helping them, get through their common pain points, things that keep them up at night, and ultimately to help them increase their impact and advance their career. And then from there, I decided to break out. And when I felt the business was, viable and could sustain me, I decided to resign. And my business was at a point where I could, see sort of the growth and scale. And today we're a corporate leadership training practice and coaching practice.
That's fantastic, and a major job you did too with the motivational speaking, the career coaching. Marisa, can you tell us a little bit about the writing in the book? How did that come about?
Yeah, so my book is called Own Your Authority, and it was really formed from a approach to leadership that I felt no one was really talking about, which really worked for me. Growing up in a very abrasive, male-dominated environment, it was really sink or swim for me. And I felt that really my success was relying on my gut instinct. It's that intuitive gut gene. And so the book is really based on success principles that focus on intuition as much as experience and skill sets and working hard in education. But for me personally, and having coached professionals throughout my career, I recognize, especially with women, that making those quick decisions, thinking on your feet, deciding which direction to go with, is all based on your intuition. And so, Own Your Authority is really a combination of that intuitive mindset, along with the practical skills and strategies that we learn as business leaders.
Okay, how much effort was put into that book? How did you learn to write? And that's what I'd like to talk about, if we can, the process of writing.
Yeah. So the process of writing really begins with your why. You really have to understand, well, what is that magic microphone message that you want to share? And if you're not rooted in the why and anchored by that, you can really go in many different directions. So I think it's really important for us to, sort of have that clear. And then the next thing you want to do as you get started writing is think about who you're writing for. Who are your readers?
Who your target audience is?
Yeah, who your target audience, like any business with a product, right? Your book is a product, the readers are your clients. Right. And for me, I was speaking to a very, distinct set of professionals, mid-career, senior leaders, mainly women, although the book does apply to men as well, who were smart, educated, worked hard, but weren't always being perceived or feeling confident in their titles or in their careers.
Yes,
and so, managing the perception and really owning your authority as an inside-out approach internally through intuition is really, what I designed the book for. So I think that's important when you write a book. You have to be clear on who your readers are. And then at the end of the day, what is the experience that you want them to have as a result?
Right, I was going to ask you that. Yeah. What do you expect to do? When people look to write something, and I think most of us have that writing feeling somewhere, right, Mayor? Yeah. Somewhere we're all going to write a book. What is into it? How do you start writing a book? How do you get the idea?
Yeah, you get the idea really from, your life stories. If you look back, I think there's a writer in everybody, right? Mayor Henry just mentioned that. There's a writer in all of us. And I think the first thing you have to do is to ask for the yes and say, affirm for yourself that I am a writer. I don't think we always wake up out of bed and recognize that we are writers. Right. But it is a very important, mindset that you have to have when you're going into it. The other thing is I think it's really important for you to recognize that when you start writing, you're not just writing aimlessly. You really want to start with write your table of contents first.
Really?
Yeah, have the framework first.
Okay.
It's okay, it's probably going to change and it's going to be edited, but if you don't sort of have that framework of where you're going with the characters, if it's fiction or a nonfiction work, then you're going to struggle. You're really going to struggle. Yes. So having that framework, and really recognizing and honoring the moments of inspiration as you go about your day. So let's say you're on the supermarket line waiting to check out. You may have a thought out of nowhere, right? Or you're having a conversation with a colleague and that just triggers something. Really take the time to jot down and record it on your phone, keep notebooks everywhere, because what's going to happen is when you sit facing a blank page, you're now going to have a vault of all this rich content that you've collected in these inspired moments. And so that's really a key part of writing, so you're not starting from scratch.
Yeah, that's a neat point. The idea is to get the words down on paper, isn't it, really? And then you can machine them later on.
Absolutely, yes. Do not edit yourself. You want to let yourself be channeled by whatever's coming through for you when you're writing. And also set your environment up for success. I don't know if everyone always talks about that, but you know, if you are going to use, for example, your kitchen table where you do your bills or you help your child with homework or work from home, it's probably not going to be the ideal environment for you to write a book. You want to make a mindset shift of, this is my creative and my sacred space, and this is where I'm going to create. And so for me, I wrote, I have an outdoor gazebo. I wrote outside for most of my book, and also even at the Old Bridge Library, I reserved a room many times in the winter months. Really separate your space and make sure that you're dedicated to just you time without interruptions.
Well, you're touching on a point I was going to come to with you. How did you find it when you were breaking in writing? How did you find it? What lessons did you learn when you started out?
Yeah, there's so many. I think that the number one lesson that I learned is that I had to consistently remind myself of why I was writing my book, right? Why does this matter? And I think imposter syndrome naturally comes up when you're writing a book or when you're taking on any project. It's a real thing. And imposter syndrome is really just the ego, right? It's there to keep us safe, protect us from fire, but it goes a little too far when we're trying to do things that, you know, that are meaningful to us. And so I learned very quickly that I had to really get into a space of recognizing, going back to the why, and recognizing that there are people out there to serve, and you know, we're in the service business, even writers. And so that was a very big lesson that I learned. Someone once shared a quote that I never forgot when I was writing my book, which is, "Your book can be the answer to someone's prayers." And I kept that front and center, because when you know, sort of have that self-doubt period, that can be the one thing that sort of keeps you going and motivated.
Okay. If you just hold on for a moment, we're getting ready to take a break, folks. We're talking with Marisa Santoro, an established author, a motivational speaker, a career coach, and she's on her way to very big things to talk about when we come back. Please stay with us.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Okay. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Baby, you see, you're so right for me, and I'm right for you. I love the things you do, like sweet tasting wine. Your lips are so divine. Your loving turns me on. My lonely days are gone. That's why I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never gonna let you go. No, no, never gonna let you go. Baby, never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
gonna let you go.
Have you ever asked for help yourself?
It's always tough, right?
I always feel like I can solve my own problems, but eventually, you just can't deal with it on your own. Once you take that first step, there's so much support.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Old Bridge Outlook with Mayor Owen Henry. Today we have a guest, Marisa Santoro, who is an accomplished motivational speaker, a career coach, and an author of a book. How do you know when you're writing or doing anything meaningful?
Yeah, I would recommend really externalizing it and putting your work out there. There's lots of forums where you can put your work and just see what the reception is. Are people? For me personally, my book is a culmination of articles and blogs and sessions that I've held. Questions that I put out there to float. And so I think it's really important to get that external feedback just by, publishing, really.
Right.
And if you see certain topics are sort of, trending or people are commenting on it, that's a really good indication. You definitely don't want to keep all your work in your head and your computer. You want to really float it out there and see what the reception is.
Okay.
The other thing I recommend is going to the bookstore and going through all of the books in the category that you're writing for in that genre. And really, just take a look and get a sense of what's already been written and where the voids are, right? I'm a big believer of finding a void and filling it, because most likely you can write about the same topic. Like I wrote about career and business leadership, which is a very common topic, but I came about it from a perspective of, leading internally, inside out leadership. And no one's still talking about intuition and leadership together.
Okay.
So maybe you'll find a void, and that would be a different position of how you write your work, which would land on a fresh set of eyes, literally.
Okay.
So you really don't know unless you put that out there and see how it lands.
I imagine. Mayor, after 3 terms as mayor, does it give you any ideas about writing a book?
I mean, the book
12
is
years
spot on,
as
and it's
12 years as a mayor of this township. What do
I'm
you
lucky
think?
to be sitting next to someone so smart. And I can tell you the transition I made from corporate business to my own business, and then into public service. I mean, the book is spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to make that change. You have to know how to be a leader. I was a leader in my field, in my business, my company, but now being an elected official, as I thumbed through the book and I saw the chapters, it's things I use every day as a leader. And and the leader, people want to trust. They want to trust their mayor. And I know being an elected official sometimes, that's an oxymoron. Sometimes elected officials, we know what's going on in this state right now. But I think the book is spot on, where if you're going to be a leader, you have to have authority, and you have to use all the skill sets that you said that are in there. Intuition, I make a lot of my decisions. I don't use the Ouija board. Gut instinct. I think of what will my father do every time.
Yeah.
I have to make a decision, and we all know as decision makers, they're not easy. Sometimes we have to make tough decisions. People get hurt by some of the decisions, even in business. I'm sure you had to face when you had to make decisions.
Yes.
So they're tough, but you have to do them. You have to have some, credibility when you do make those decisions.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the information in that book gives me credibility that I am doing the right thing. 12 years as mayor, which is
long haul.
It's a long haul.
Just give you any
I hope to continue my public service.
Yes, hopefully you will. I think you will, Mayor.
Thank you, Gene.
Do you think you could sit down and write a book right now? Would that motivate you in any way?
I don't know. I don't know if I have the time.
Yeah, that's true. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
But if you have something that you really like to do, you know what my hobbies are. I would love to, write about my model trains.
Yes.
And the stories as a mayor. We could write a book.
Yes, we could write
co-author a book about being the mayor and all the people that come through the mayor's office in this town. But I don't know if I'd have the skill set to write a book. I might have to hire a ghostwriter.
Well, there's a thought, Mayor. There's a thought.
I was going to say,
it's a big business. It's a booming business.
It is.
Back to Marisa, and
people are starving for information.
That's right.
Especially in today's day and age.
Yes.
It is an information. I mean, everybody wants information.
Right.
And we want it now.
Right.
Nobody wants to wait.
Yes. So true.
It's important that we keep that supply of information coming.
Yes.
For society.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Something to think about.
Well,
we'll get together and we'll write a book. Okay. How do you manage your time when you're writing?
Yeah, that was a challenge, I would say, for anyone really who's looking to write a book. I took a very systematic approach when I sat down to write my book. I was
Yes.
told that the average book is between 50 and 55,000 words.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, usually for nonfiction and fiction. And so once I heard that number, I literally took that number and I divided it by 500, because I know for myself, sitting down in one writing session, I could write about 500 to 750 words. Good quality content that feels channeled and inspired. I did the math. When I did, 50,000 divided by 500, I got about 3 months, 100 days.
Okay.
And then from there, I just sort of figured out, well, do I want to, do this 3 months contiguous? Do I want to stretch it out? And so I threw in, some non-negotiables. I'm not going to write on the weekends. I have my family, maybe Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday.
Ask you that, yeah.
Set your days, stick to it, factor in vacation, graduations, all the things that, living.
Yes.
And definitely put a date down on the calendar. It can change, but definitely put a date down and work backwards from that date, and then just commit to it. And so when you do it that way, that feels right, and it's a more flexible way, you can manage your time. Like for me, 500 words, is about 90 minutes.
So it doesn't have to be every day, though.
No, not at all. For me, it was between 4 and 5 days a week, depending on the week.
What do you do when you stare at a blank sheet of paper?
Well, as I said before, that vault that you're collecting, that's so key, because that's where you prime the pump. You have all of your ideas and concepts that you've already collected over time, every day, your everyday situations.
Are some days easier than the other days? I know I get in that zone sometimes where you see 500 words. I got 1,500 today, and the next day I'm drawing a blank.
Yes, that's so key. Actually, that's a good point. Definitely don't censor yourself. If you've got 1,500, let it go, let it rip.
Get in that zone. I feel it sometimes. And sometimes you're out of it. You can't.
Yes.
Just walk away.
Actually, yeah, that's what I recommend. Walk away, disconnect to reconnect, and really honor that, because it's like everything. You can get burned out. You can, you'll start, resenting your book, like any project you take on, right? And when you come back, you're 10 times a better writer than you were when you were trudging along and pushing it through up hills. So yeah, very important.
Well, I've read that some writers write every day, from 6 in the morning till noon, every day.
Yes.
Good or bad, they get it down. Other writers, if they stare at a blank page, they walk away from it and don't go back to it.
Yep.
What's best?
I think it depends on the person. I'm not the type of person that was really willing to make the commitment to write 7 days a week. I had my family, I had my clients, I had my business. It just wasn't a commitment I wanted to make. But if you have the time, then yeah, that could work too. There's also the morning pages. If for all the writers out there, Julia Cameron's famous book, The Artist's Way, she talks about just writing every morning. 3 pages, whatever comes out of stream of consciousness when you wake up. That primes the pump also. But I really think it depends on the person.
Is that a way to build momentum in your writing?
Yeah, building momentum is, absolutely. That's one way. I would say also recognizing that as you're writing your book, you really want to be good to yourself and practice self-care, right? For me, building momentum was getting excited and talking about my book. I would tell everybody, I'm working on a book.
Did you really?
And the more you actually sort of get out of your head and start sharing whatever you're working on, even if it doesn't have to be a book, whatever you're working on, the more you talk about it with others, the more excited you get, the more others get excited for you, and then they start supporting you. People are like giving you ideas for your book, and they're sharing their thoughts on the characters if it's fiction. So I think that's a big part of building momentum, and then just going back to, why am I writing this book? Why does this matter? And really doing some mindset work on keeping yourself, motivated and grounded, because you can easily burn out.
I was going to ask you about that. What happens? Do you burn out as a writer?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think with anything you'll burn out if you keep doing the same thing, day in, day out, and you're not, giving yourself that, that break, that, breathing room. I think that's a very real thing for people, and I don't know if that we always honor self-care. Sometimes doing nothing is actually something. It's a reset.
What I found, Gina, you can burn out, but never doubt yourself.
Right.
You're always, you're skilled, you know what you can do, you know what you're capable of doing. So don't ever get into the situation, well, I'm not a writer. You're a writer.
Right.
I'm a mayor, and there's some days maybe I'm not a mayor.
Right.
So never doubt yourself.
I agree with that, yeah.
Yes, so
it's tough when you start, doubting yourself. I think it's very tough.
And I see the pitfalls when people start to doubt themselves. They start making mistakes, and then it just snowballs into worse, a downfall. Then it starts playing with your mind.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
we have to control what's in our heads.
Yeah, I mean, frequency and your energy and frequency and how well your body is performing on any given day, knowing when your peak performance is as well. Like, for instance, I wrote my book only in the mornings.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are a lot of writers that write them, they're night owls, they get their best work. You know, you really need to know what your body best tunes to and when
Yes.
you're going to get your most production out. So I think that's also important in keeping
Yeah,
momentum.
the brain is a scary thing.
Yes, very scary.
It's different.
No, but I think you're right. I think the momentum is important, and you don't want to doubt yourself ever.
Well, you know, right?
Yeah, what I've done, you don't want to doubt yourself. I mean, you're in big trouble if you doubt
All the
yourself.
problems we've had over the 12 years
Yeah.
and the crises, I never doubted
Yeah.
that we were going to get ourselves through this.
That's right. That's something you put in your book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never doubt yourself.
Okay, folks, before we go, I just want to remind you that this is one of a series of 3 shows we'll be doing on writing. And this will culminate on November 12th when Marisa appears at the Old Bridge Public Library and she does a program on writing. And November is National Novel Writing Month. So what do we do there? What are we expecting people to do there?
Well, I think it's a challenge. It's sort of a call to action to, you know, there's energy in that. If you could form writing groups, you can, you know, get together and just set a, you know, a goal for yourself, maybe write throughout the month. And really just get the juices flowing and see what shows up. You might just have a table of contents. You might have a couple of chapters. But the library program is going to be more of an educational experience for residents and non-residents to come in and, you know, if they all have an urge to write a book, I'll give lots of strategies and tips on how to get started.
Okay. Well, thank you for this part 1. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. And keep writing. Take care.